When did you first find out that you'd been nominated for a Golden Globe, and where were you?
Well, that Golden Globe, they stopped that category after that year. That was a category they always had called Best Newcomer. And I was in it that year, and I lost to Brad Davis, who won for Midnight Express. And but I was at a really cool table with who is the guy from Man Called Horse? Richard Harris and Turkel and just a bunch of cool people.
How did your role for Star 80 come about? And is it true that you portrayed the character so well that you were essentially typecast kind of in the dating scene where women presumed you were as bad a person as you played in the movie? Is that a true story?
Well, let me give you an example, just to not give an opinion about it, but just an example of the situation without opinion. Is that I would walk down the street after Star 80 came out, and a woman would see me a block away, walking towards me, stop and cross the street. I mean, it got bad, dude. They were scared of me, and you don't have time to explain. I'm only an actor. Yeah, it was bad for a while. People thought I was that guy, and that poor guy had some issues.
So you followed up with the Pope of Greenwich Village, another heavy-hitting acting job. I mean, geez, the scene between you and Mickey Rourke, where you explain they took your thumb, the Charlie, they took my thumb scene is truly incredible acting from both of you. What do you remember about filming that scene with Mickey? I mean, it's funny. I was talking with, I mentioned to my father that I was going to be interviewing you today, and immediately he went into Charlie, they took my thumb.
No, I love hearing that. Well, here's the deal about that day is the night before that day, I knew I had that day coming. And my oldest sister, Lisa, and I had worked very hard on that scene in my private time together. She ran it with me a lot because it's the kind of scene that he's not of this earth, and that he's on drugs, he's on painkillers, all this stuff, but he's also reliving the experience. So he's going through it to some degree, but he's all effed up. And so it was a very tricky scene that you couldn't play. The only way to make it funny was to really jump at the tragedy of the scene. Like Mickey has one line in my monologue, and like Mickey is an actor who does not learn lines. He's totally improvisational, and if you can't keep up, you're left in the dust. It's as simple as that. And he's a real actor, so you got to keep up. Okay, but I told Mickey, you got one line tomorrow. I need the line because it's a transition change in my speech, and my speech is 3 pages long. I got to have your line when it comes, not just casually when you feel like it. I need the line tomorrow.
Because it'll throw you off otherwise, because you got everything else prepped around that.
Right. He goes, no sweat, Ace, you got it. I said, thank you, Mickey. I love you. See you tomorrow. Bang. I go, okay, I get back to work.
I think I know where this is going.
And we're having a line run through. He does not know his one line. I said, Mickey, learn your effing line. I'll be in my trailer when you learn it. It's the only time I ever pulled an actor routine with Mickey. Mickey, learn your line. I'll be back when you do. That kind of thing. And he learned his line, and we knocked it out. And we did it in 2 takes. And it was one of the 3 or 4 hardest monologues I've ever had in my 44-year film career. And Mickey and I, we were so bonded during that movie anyway that everything we went through was an experience for both of us. And so we got through it together. And I was very proud of it. And here's what happened too: is I cry so much in that, so I'm letting her real cry. Yeah. And so for take 2 of the thing for the inserts, I rubbed my eyes. Anyway, I scratched my cornea. So, but I finished shooting the scene. We had cornea medicine put in my eye. It hurts so bad to scratch your cornea. Oh man, is it painful? It's like a broken nose. It's really bad. So So they give me accordion medicine to kill the pain, and we shoot the scene later on in the afternoon that day when he gives me soup, and I have my favorite improv line where I say, "White bread. No one of these wasps got no color," and yeah, and that was that situation. It was a great day on the set, and I had my best acting buddy with me, and we killed it.
So you, that whole scene, because I was going to ask you, that whole scene was scripted. None of that was improv by you, or did you take some liberties?
Oh no, that monologue was all Vinnie Patrick. That was all Vinnie Patrick's words, man. The only thing I added was white bread. No one of these wasps got no color. The rest of that whole thing was him, dude, and every syllable. And I respected the writer.
Wow. What did you use to inform your performance in that picture? I mean, because you had to draw from so many different places. Where did you, was there some place you drew from for that?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was me in another context, in that, you know, he was a guy who wanted to be a tough guy. He wanted to be a mobster. He wanted to be this and that. All the things he was not. And I, as a kid, was very short up until I was 19. I grew 6 inches in 1 year at 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
So in high school, when I get into high school, I was 4'10" in the 8th grade. When I was in driving, I was 5 feet tall. I was a little person. And I thought I was going to always be a little person because I had 2 grandmothers who were both under 5 feet tall. So I thought, well, I got the short gene. I'm going to be a punk, you know? And I was in the South, during the civil rights era. So everybody was a little testy. And I was a little short. And I was an actor kid. What was to like about me? So I got picked on a lot. And so I learned how to fight. And I became known as watch that little guy. He's a handful. And so I understood being left out. I understood not being who you wanted to be. I understood being needy in that aspect of yourself, having no sense of self in that aspect that had pride to it. And Paulie Gibboni was a skinny, frizzy-haired kid who wanted to be a tough guy and was not, and but was going to be no matter what. He's going to be a tough guy, and he like failed miserably every time he attempted it, but he kept trying, you know. And I just loved him very much. And in fact, in January of that year, when I got that script and that book, I was told by the producers, pick a part, Paulie or Charlie, and I picked Paulie. And they said, you know, we wanted you to pick Charlie. Why did you pick Paulie? And I said, it's a better part. And they said, but Paulie's a leading man. He's handsome. He's cool. You know, blah, blah, blah. He wears suits. And I said, yeah, that's not my guy. I said, okay, so we're going to go after Mickey Rourke. I said, great. And they did. And they got him. And we made a great movie together.
Absolutely. So the next film, and speaking of learning how to fight, the next film that, I mean, really, 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 truly proved your acting skills to all of us was your incredible performance in Runaway Train, in which you received an Oscar nomination. How did that job come about?
Well, that was just an offer. They sent me that script, the Golden Globes sent me that script, and they said, we'd like you to play this part. Now, when I read the script, he was a tough kind of a mule kind of a guy. He was a tough guy. Yeah, I'm in for statutory rape because I like young women. Not a very likable or very appealing or very fun part to play. So I said, I don't want to play this part unless I can take him in a whole other genre, a whole other personality, a whole other dynamic. I can make him a punk kid, but he's going to talk like this. He's going to have a deep voice, and I want to make him a country boy, which, you know, I didn't know she was 16. I thought she was like. So it's okay with the audience that he made a mistake in that who he slept with. It's not that big a crime. It's a mistake, but it's not a crime. That's what I wanted to give this guy, because it was statutory rape. So that's so distasteful And I because it's such a crappy crime, I did not want to make him a crappy person necessarily. So I changed how he talked. I made him talk higher. He's country, uneducated, and I asked the director, who was Russian, can I do all this? And he said, of course you can. We hired you because you're great talent. Do what you want. But I realized he didn't have an ear for a Southern accent. He didn't know what I was doing. And I realized that about a week into rehearsals, because we had 2 weeks of rehearsal. And I realized, wow, I think maybe he just doesn't know. Oh, God. And I asked Jon Voight, how do you like what I'm doing? I like what you're doing. And I was on, I don't know about Jon either, because Jon was wearing a whole bodysuit, because Jon only weighed 160 pounds and he's over 6 feet tall. So he was really super skinny, but he had his bodysuit. So he looked all muscular and big. He was not muscular and big. He was a skinny cat, but he had his big bodysuit on. Anyway, I was very nervous about that part at first, but Jon was so good in the part. And I love working with Jon so much. And I also found out years later that Jon and I have opposite politics, which I had no idea of knowing at the time, because we just dealt with each other as actors in the characters. And so I knew nothing about Jon except as that character. And he was such a badass, and we had so much fun together. And it was cold and it was dangerous and it was hard shooting on a real train. It's so much work, and every take is 8 minutes long, for Christ's sake. And you're on a train and you're shooting on film. We didn't have the luxury of digital. We're like shooting film. It was hard, man. It's a hard shoot, but Jon Voight, made it worthwhile.